How would you like to finally put an end to the annoying, disruptive behavior of talented leaders at the top of your organization? Peter Drucker, the author and renowned speaker on management and leadership, once said, "We spend a lot of time teaching leaders what to do. We don't spend enough time teaching leaders what to stop." And of course, he's right. It isn't technical skill, but rather emotional intelligence that becomes more important at the upper rungs of the corporate ladder. And I'm sure you understand that people skills, or lack of them, become more pronounced the higher up you go. Think about this. Who would you rather have as the CFO at your company? A moderately good accountant who's great with people and skilled at managing others? Or a brilliant accountant who's inept with others and alienates all the smart people around him? It's really not a tough choice, right? Well, unfortunately, some leaders seem unwilling or don't appear capable of honestly considering how their behavior might be impacting other people inside and outside the company. And as a result, your entire organization can suffer. Hi, my name is Jeff Putnam. During the next few minutes, I'm going to share some strategies and case studies with you, outlining a handful of simple and actionable high-level steps you can take to mitigate the disruptive behavior you're seeing in one or more of your fellow executives. As we get started, the first thing I want you to know is that you're definitely not alone. According to recent surveys, a full 45% of CEOs are less than satisfied with their executive team's performance. In fact, nearly half of all Fortune 500 companies have one or two dysfunctional directors on staff. And 43% of all executives rank conflict resolution as their number one personal development issue, and for good reason. Every week I meet busy professionals like you who ask me how to fix members of their senior leadership so they can get back to running and growing their companies. They usually start the conversation by saying something like, "I've got this guy running a big division who delivers his numbers and more every quarter. He's an outgoing, smart, dedicated, ethical, motivated, hardworking, creative, charismatic, arrogant, stubborn, know-it-all jerk." Thus, the dilemma you're facing is how to decide whether to cut them loose, reassign them, or figure out a way to get them turned around. In fact, beyond wondering what you should do, you may also be asking yourself if their behavior is even fixable. It's tough because more often than not, these bad actors are incredibly talented, highly skilled producers. So it's hard to justify letting them go. Yet on the other hand, among other things, often other talented executives may begin to head for the door if the disruptive behavior doesn't stop. No doubt you understand the costs associated with cutting them loose. Depending on their role and the size of your company, the combined costs for replacing them, or others who leave in the meantime, can quickly reach 7 figures. And of course, the potential damage to things like your company's reputation, morale, revenue, project success, etc. can be substantial. Well, over the past 15 years or so, I've been devoted to helping successful executives like you who are ruthlessly committed to 4 things. Eliminating conflicts at the top of their organization, developing the strongest leadership team possible, executing their business plans with piercing effectiveness, and having a lot of fun in the process. So if you're looking for a way to break free from the headaches associated with disruptive leaders on your team and have a lot more fun growing your business, you're definitely in the right place, and you're going to love what I'm about to share with you. So what sort of disruptions are we talking about? As I read off the following list, consider how your disruptive executive stacks up. Do they have to add their 2 cents to every conversation or always get the last word? Use sarcastic or cutting remarks to sound sharp or witty? Need to show people they're smarter than others by correcting every little thing? Use emotional intimidation, bullying, or volatility as a management tool? Blame everyone but themselves? Show favoritism? Micromanage their people? Suggest they have all the answers and their way is the right or only way? Take credit for the efforts of others to make themselves look good or gain power? Pound their chest, exaggerating their own contribution to the company? Deflect attention away from themselves by diminishing others? Or have improper conversations inside the company with clients or with the media? Does any of that sound familiar? Well, if you're seeing issues like these with one or more of your key executives, whether you've intervened yet or not, there are a few scenarios you're likely to encounter when you do. When confronted, they may simply deny responsibility for their behavior or its significance, try to justify it as necessary or the reason for the company's success, or if they do agree to change, results may be temporary, only to slide back into the old behavior after a few weeks or months, repeating the cycle again and again. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share 3 things with you. First, some organizing principles to assure you a successful and lasting change in their behavior. Second, vital things to avoid that will make matters worse if you don't. And third, a simple process to turn things around as quickly and painlessly as possible. Now, the best thing about the solutions I'll share with you now is that they cut through all the BS and drill down to the heart of what's really going on. They work regardless of whether the disruptive behavior is due to anger, ego, resentment, or any other cause, and they're based on proven results. So let's start with a few organizing principles that are vital to getting them to change their behavior. You might want to take some notes so you have something to refer to later. Your chances for success will be much greater if you keep these in mind whenever you're addressing the target executive about their behavior. First of all, the way you frame the conversation is everything. If they perceive they're being judged, more often than not, they'll dig in. That said, a carefully framed message will accomplish three things. It'll help to preserve the rapport you have with them. It'll make it safe for them to tell the truth about their behavior. And it'll help assure that the message you give them is the message they actually receive, rather than jumping to conclusions or questioning your intentions. While it's somewhat ironic that you have to be so careful about how you engage with someone who seems to lack the willingness to do so him or herself, volatile people can be particularly sensitive to criticism and tend to double down on their position when threatened, which you certainly want to avoid. The second principle is that in order to influence them, you must first understand what already influences them. The better you understand their model of the world, the better chance you have of changing it. I'll explain more on this in a moment. The third principle is that lasting change will only come for their reasons, not yours. Your job is to help them discover for themselves how their behavior is hurting them. Yet you can't just tell them. And while right now they may not have any reasons to change and may even view their behavior as totally appropriate, if you follow the instructions I'm about to explain, soon they'll be on board and ready for a new approach. Without these three fundamental understandings, it's unlikely that efforts to change their behavior will be successful long term. Now, these principles will make even more sense to you once I've outlined the steps of the process, so stick with me. Let's begin by talking about three things to avoid whenever possible. First, be careful to avoid threatening termination or even implying a threat if they don't change. Doing so will diminish your credibility and get them focusing on you instead of their own behavior. While you may get short-term compliance, in the long run a good result will be unlikely. Second, do what you can to prevent others from sabotaging them or denying the progress they make along the way. To some, especially the targets of their bad behavior, termination is the easiest solution, and they may be secretly rooting for it. And third, don't rush into a solution until you're clear they're committed to changing for their own reasons. This will only get you short-term compliance at best, and at worst it'll get you resentment and ill will. Now let's get into the 7 steps of the change process, which may be executed by you or delegated to someone else on your team. Let's go over them one by one. Step 1. Determine the metrics you want to improve. While this is most obvious, there may be some disagreement among members of your team, so it's vital that everyone give input about what has to happen for them to be convinced that the target executive is improving. So clarify what specific behaviors should change and how you'll know when success has been achieved. Second, diagnose their model of the world. In order to affect the changes that you're wanting to get, it's important that you really understand their perspective, because there's power in knowing that. So it's important that you ask lots of questions so you can better understand things like how they think and make decisions, what they believe about leadership and good management, what they value, what they're trying to get with their current strategy, what they believe has to happen in order for them to get it, and what's preventing them from getting it now. There are some great assessment tools out there that measure both thinking and values and can really help to begin and guide the conversation. Again, the way you frame things leading up to this conversation is everything. If you contact my office, I can give you more information about a great assessment tool and how you can use it. Step 3. Get leverage. Once you're clear about the behaviors you want to change and you really understand their model of the world and their perspective, the most important piece to this whole process is their reasons to change the behavior. So this third step is about helping them to discover what it'll cost them if they continue with their current approach. This could be anything from less stress to more respect, approval, success, significance, or a sense of control. Their kids or other family members are often the best leverage, so don't be afraid to go there. Fourth, get them to elicit the input of their peers. This is particularly important if you have other executives eager to see them fired from the company. Believe it or not, even the most disruptive executives will learn to enthusiastically seek out the feedback of other executives and their direct reports if the first few steps of this process are done properly. Step 5. Identify and model alternatives to the old behavior, including skills they may be missing. You'll probably be surprised to discover some significant skill gaps related to their emotional intelligence. Sixth, condition the new alternatives and skills. There should be plenty of opportunities every day for them to practice and apply the new skills they're learning. And last, step 7, reassess their behavior based on the metrics established in step 1 and with the help of their colleagues from step 4. When you apply these 7 steps, keeping in mind the organizing principles and avoiding the pitfalls we discussed earlier, you can get amazing results just like my clients. Here's what one CEO had to say about his experience. I was looking for someone who could tone down one of my top people. The executive in question was passionate about his work and tireless in his pursuit of new business. While his intentions were honorable, his style of communication was adversely affecting relationships with other executives in the company. Attempts to turn this around from within the organization had proven fruitless. As a result, I needed an expert from the outside who could engage him and mitigate his behavior. Jeff was the answer. I was amazed at how fast he was able to get buy-in and, more importantly, create the positive behavior changes we needed. I'm ecstatic about how Jeff has helped him to successfully navigate relationships with other executives and how our entire leadership team is coming together as a result. That's from Dan Francis, the CEO of Edgewood Partners. And here are some comments from the disruptive executive he had me work with. Jeff has given me meaningful help unlike any other executive coach. He provided a partnership that began with understanding me without judgments, predispositions, agendas, or directions. Jeff worked with me to make better use of my strengths and manage my weaknesses. He did it by helping me to understand myself better and by creating a model to live by that maximizes my strengths and those things which are most important to me. Now I have constant peace of mind regarding the circumstances at the office, the clarity to engage other executives in more productive ways, and powerful tools to better lead people who report directly to me. After only a few months of coaching, I'm working less, having a bigger impact with less stress, and having a lot more fun. David Alvarado, Managing Principal, Edgewood Partners. Well, by now you may be wondering how you can begin resolving the conflicts at your company and get back to growing your business. Now, as I said, the 7 steps I outlined are critical to getting lasting change, and you can do it the hard way on your own, or you can do it the easy way by hiring a specialist to either guide you or do it for you. And that's what I do every day for my clients and their businesses. This is perfect for you if you're looking to get the bad behavior under control, see dramatic, lasting improvement with them and the rest of your executive team, avoid all the time and expense of replacing them, and get back to executing your business plan as soon as possible. Because right now I'm looking for a few more of my dream clients, a few more highly talented, terribly disruptive executives. By the way, you may be wondering why anyone would choose to work with disagreeable executives when most people would cross the street to avoid them. Well, I became fascinated with challenging people because at 5 feet 10 inches and 108 pounds, I was an easy target for bullies all throughout high school. It led me to pursue a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's to ultimately become a therapist and now an executive coach. Call me crazy, but I just love waking up challenging people and freeing them to achieve their true potential. That's why for a limited time I'm available to work with you on a confidential strategy session if you meet my criteria. Now, the 3 groups of disruptive executives I work with fall into the following categories: board members, senior officers, and VPs, directors, and other upper-level executives. Here's how the process works. Most important is that everything we discuss will be completely confidential. I understand the sensitivity of your situation and will keep the details privileged. Your strategy session will last about 30 minutes, and you'll be speaking with me personally. I'll help you put together a plan for getting the behavior under control without allowing it to consume all of your time in the process. So who is this for? Well, this strategy session is definitely not for everyone. That said, it is for you if you're frustrated with one or more members of your executive team and you're ready to end it now. You truly value the challenging person and you want them to succeed. You'd like your entire executive team to function better together. You've already intervened and have gotten either no improvements or only temporary compliance. You're unsure if your disruptive executive's behavior is fixable and you'd like to know before choosing a course of action. And you understand there's no magic pill and you're willing to have some skin in the game by investing some time and money to get the changes you want. Working with me as a client isn't cheap. And if we're a fit and ultimately decide to work together, you should expect results that will save or make you exponentially more than your investment of time and money with me. So who is this not for? Well, it's definitely not for executives who are unwilling to commit to the process. It's not for leaders who make excuses or insist on repeating strategies that haven't worked in the past. And it's not for you if you're going to make this a low priority or if you're looking for a cheap solution, or if you're stuck in information gathering mode and aren't prepared to take decisive action to get the desired results. Now, just to be clear, there's no implied offer right now. I don't work with everyone, and frankly, some situations just aren't fixable. In fact, until I'm able to determine whether or not your disruptive executive is coachable, which will require a private conversation with him or her at some point, there's no way for me to be sure I can help you at all. While I enjoy working with challenging executives, some just aren't coachable. So to be perfectly clear, I'll only take your business if I'm certain I can get them into the end zone. Because frankly, the last thing I need is a client I have to drag across the finish line kicking and screaming. So please understand I will not be asking you for a commitment during your strategy session, because neither of us will be in a position to make a good decision about whether we're a good fit for one another just yet. This first meeting is really a way for us to get acquainted, discuss your specific situation, and strategize. Think of it as your opportunity to interview me, and I'll do the same. If all goes well, we can discuss the next steps to see if a formal relationship makes sense. Here are some comments from a CEO who found great value from the vetting process itself. Jeff is an amazing individual who has the ability to look into the heart and soul of each individual he touches. In fact, myself and 5 other members of my executive team went through a diagnostic process with Jeff, and we were able to see significant positive changes in how each of us interacts with the rest of the group. These benefits were achieved even before considering Jeff's executive coaching services. There were significant positive changes in personality and behavior that, quite frankly, I was never able to fully manifest on my own as the CEO. This is truly amazing stuff. Bill Coupland, CEO of Alcom Printing. And this is how one of my other clients described their experience. Over the past 7 months, my experience with Putnam Executive Coaching has been very positive. Jeff is a wealth of energy and ideas, not to mention his penultimate ability to generate prescient questions that drive development and clarity of desired outcomes. Jeff solved my initial business personnel challenges and then led me through more valuable benefits that even my wife noticed. I strongly recommend Jeff's coaching services to anyone looking to reach higher and go further. Charles Clift, President and Senior Principal of Curtain Wall Design and Consulting. Here are some other companies I've worked with over the past several years. At the end of your strategy session, one of 2 things will happen. We'll either agree to continue the conversation, or if it's not a good fit, that's totally okay too, and we can part ways as friends. Either way, you'll receive an incredibly valuable strategy session and walk away with newfound clarity as to where you are right now, what it'll take to turn things around, and if it's worth the effort. When you hang up the phone at the end of our call, you'll know why they haven't changed already, how to determine the best person to engage them in conversation, how to properly frame the conversation with them, even if the target person is your CEO, what it'll take to get them committed to changing now, how to make it safe for them to tell the truth about their behavior, how to get the other members of your team on board so they support the changes and don't sabotage the intervention, how to get it done without overburdening yourself with added responsibility, and how to solidify the changes and make sure they last. Oh, and one final note. Please don't request a strategy session for your executive secretary or someone from your human resources department unless you plan to be on the call as well. It's just not productive for me to discuss these high-level issues with them unless you're present. Like I said earlier, challenges like these are very common, and as a result, I get dozens of applications for strategy sessions every month. So this opportunity is extremely limited because of my current client load and the intense one-on-one time needed in order to get the best results for my clients. That said, if you feel like this is right for you, go ahead and click the link below and get on my calendar, and I'll look forward to meeting you.